When life lends a hand, it's time to open up your heart. It is time to love one another. It's time to take part. Vibrate our ways, loving and serving everyone. Vibrate our ways, loving and serving everyone. When we give our heart in charity, our lives are transforming into songs. Our dreams become reality. And we join Jesus for eternity. Vibrate our ways, loving and serving everyone. Vibrate our ways, loving and serving everyone. When we give our heart in charity, our lives are transformed into songs. Our dreams become reality. And we join Jesus for eternity. Blue crystal eyes, colors of the sky, gray bushy beard, Santa's look alike. Shine on your brothers on earth, suffering, living joy, or in pain. Blue crystal eyes, color of the sky, gray bushy beard, Santa's look alike. Shine on your brothers on earth, suffering, living joy, or in pain. Bezerra de Menezes, Apostle of the Good, receive our praise and also our heart. Bezerra de Menezes, Apostle of the Light, place our pain at the feet of Jesus Christ. Source of love that radiates, warming up our cold nights, support and comfort, support and comfort, cascades flowing down the mountain, calling the children of earth with love in their heart, with love in their heart. My soul never loses is hope, because your love always teaches me the solution lies in our Lord. The solution lies in our Lord. For my mother's Ephraim, harvest of wonderful blessings. Make yours, my son, a good Christian. Make yours, my son, a good Christian.
Sometimes it's not so easy. Sometimes it's not so close. Sometimes we build our dreams, but then we see them decompose. When you feel down the dumps, feeling sad and blue, give life a chance, my friend, the sun will shine again on you. Believe you can come through. The rainy days are true. Have little faith in you. Maybe tomorrow you can dream all your dreams again. Though some sorrow remains, it doesn't mean the end. Believe you can come through. The rainy days are true. Sometimes okay to feel blue. Have little faith in you. Dream all your dreams again. Though some sorrow remains, your dreams can get you through. Have little faith in you.
When I go in to pray, I look for my good Jesus. And when I close my eyes, I can feel all His light. I open my heart for all He has to say. He shows me the best way I can enjoy my life. Jesus, they never we apart. Please bring all your light to shine inside my heart. Jesus, Jesus, I can be content. I have your endless love and your protecting hand.
sortir un soir dans les jardins de chez Pierre, j'entendrai sa voix à dire tu sens cette brise, la lune, tu la vois, il faut repartir tout comme elle, puisque telle est la loi, et pendant ta paix en famille, tous les jours on se reverra. Et je m'imagine enfant à cet endroit-là, peut-être Jésus m'inviterait à sortir un soir dans les jardins de chez Pierre, j'entendrai sa voix à dire tu sens cette brise, la lune, tu la vois, il faut repartir tout comme elle, puisque telle est la loi, et pendant ta paix en famille, tous les jours on se reverra. Et pendant ta prière en famille, tous les jours on se reverra.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to our public meeting. We thank everyone for joining us tonight. Before we start, we would like to share a couple of announcements. We ask you to turn off your phone notifications and find a quiet place to stay during this time if possible. Our meeting will have a 30 minutes presentation followed by Q&A. Following the presentation, we will have a spiritual treatment with passes and magnetized water. So we invite you to set aside a container with water to be magnetized. We would like to inform that there is a free and online course that for those who want to learn more about Spiritism. Get to know to Spiritism happens every Saturday at 5:15 p.m. East. Last Saturday was the last class and the theme was family. However, there will be a new Get to Know to Spiritism class that we will start in September. We will bring more information soon. We also invite everyone to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube from the Spiritism Canada and the Spiritism Group Path of Light. And now, I invite everyone to join me in our opening prayer. So let's close our eyes, elevate our thoughts. Heavenly Father, we would like to thank you for the opportunity to be here one more Tuesday in order to learn more about your teachings. We thank you for your love, your mercy, and for everything you have done for us. We also thank you for this day, for our lives, our health, our family, and our friends. May you can bless all of us in our inner necessities, and may we become a better person due to your example of humility and peace. We ask the good spirits to bless and inspire our sister Larissa, who will speak to us tonight. May we can learn from her. Once again, we thank you for everything, and we ask you to stay with us today and always. So be it. The topic of today's meeting is pride and humility. From chapter 7, Blessed are the poor in spirit, items 11 and 12, which will be facilitated by our friend and sister Larissa from London, Ontario. We also would like to announce that our public meeting is being retransmitted today by Continental Concafres America through their Facebook and will also be retransmitted every Wednesday at 8 p.m. by Kardec Radio through their Facebook. Everyone is welcome to write comments and questions in the chat, and we will address the questions at the end of the talk. And now we invite our tonight's speaker. Welcome, Larissa.
Hi, Marcel.
How are you today?
I'm doing well. How about you?
I'm great, and I'm very happy to have you here. Your first talk. We are
Thank you.
very happy and excited to see you here.
Yeah, I hope I can pass along the message from today's topic. And I hope everyone enjoyed the talk today.
Okay, we will. So it's all you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, just a moment. I'm going to share my screen with you all. So today's message, as Marcel previously said, will be under chapter 7, items 11 and 12. And it is the Spirit's teachings about pride and humility. So the message today is actually two messages from two different spirits. The first message is from Lacordaire, and it was received in Constantine in 1863. And the second message that we will see today is from Adolf, and he was a bishop of Auger, and it was received in Marmande in 1862. So God has given us the opportunity to learn from these spirits that they were here before, they reincarnate here, and they acquired this virtue of humility. And they, like, by those message, we can learn from their experience. And you will see that those messages were received in the 1800s. So even though it's a long time ago, there is a lot of good teachings, and you will see that it's still so accurate to our time that we are living in right now. So we will start with Lacordaire with his message. He starts saying that humility is a much neglected virtue among us. The great examples that have been given us are followed very little. However, without humility, can you be charitable toward your neighbor? And he answers, no, because this sentiment puts all men and women on the same level. It tells them that they are brothers and sisters and that they must mutually help one another, and it leads them to the good. So humility, as we are already seeing in our previous talk, we are talking about humility not in the sense of lacking of material possessions. This is really commonly associated with just the material aspect. So we would say that someone that is poor or that struggles and live like a simple life, we would say, oh, this person is humble, right? But in the humility in this sense, it's much more of the feeling of not putting ourselves above anyone else, right? So like he says there, it's a sentiment that puts us all in the same level. So it really doesn't matter like what you have or what you do or who you are, but it's that sentiment that tells us that we are brothers and sisters and we need to help each other. And that's why he says that we cannot be truly charitable if we are not humble. So he continues saying that without humility, you adorn yourselves with virtues that you do not possess, and as if wearing clothes to hide the deformities of your body. So the way that I understand this is that it's like a mask, right? So even though we can do good things and we can be charitable towards our neighbor, but if the intention behind all these actions are not towards like humility, right? Like if we are not humble when we are doing it, if we are not doing it without ostentation, it means that we are not truly developing those virtues, right? We do not have humility when we are doing it, and that's why that's why he says that without humility, it's like we are using those virtues, it's like we are putting that, we are showing off that just as an appearance, but inside in our inner self, like we do not possess that. And he asks us to remember the one who saves us, to remember his humility, which made him so great and placed him above all the prophets. So we know that Jesus is a highly evolved spirit, and he is our guide and our model. So he here incarnated here on earth to live his teachings and to show us how we should all the laws of conduct that we should have, right? And if we think about, like, since he was born, he chose to be born in a very simple condition, right? um, Even the city that he chose to grew up, which was Nazareth, he was known as Jesus of Nazareth. uh, there is a passage in the gospel that one of the disciples, I think before knowing him, asked, but can something good comes from Nazareth? So you like, it's like Nazareth doesn't have a good reputation. So that showed us that he chose, even though he's a highly evolved spirit, and he was even nowadays, right? Like he is the example of humility that we have still, and that we should follow, right? And he chose all these situations to be born with, uh, to show us that it really doesn't matter, like your background or who you are or where you are. It really means that we need to focus our actions in to be humble and think about that we are not above anyone else, right? If we think that he had already he didn't need to come and to reincarnate, but he chose to do that to show us a good example and the best example for us to follow, especially in how to be humble. So pride is the humility's opposite. It's the total opposite. In pride here, we are not talking about the feeling of when you achieve something, right? Like, oh, I'm proud because I got a promotion, or I'm proud that my son started university. So we're not talking about pride in this sense. We are talking about the negative meaning for pride, right? It's when we think that we are above everyone else, that maybe because we have power, or maybe because we have some title, or we have material possessions that other people doesn't have. So we think that we are invincible, right? We are in control of everything. So that's the meaning of pride that we are looking here. So pride is the terrible adversary of humility. And because the mighty of the earth imagine that titles and wealth are rewards given for their merit, and that their essence is purer than that of the poor. So that was what I was saying about the superiority, right? Just because they have material possessions, or they think they are made of some kind of different essence. That's why Christ chose to promise, right, the kingdom of heaven to those who are the poorest, right, who are the humbles. And here is to say that even though it's really common to see, to think that people that have more power or more money, they would be pride, and this can happen definitely, but we need to always remember that humility and pride here, we are not attaching them to the situation, like the amount of things and material possessions that a person have, right? We can have people that are poor, are living in poverty, or are struggling, but still keeps this sentiment of pride, right? So we need to remember that we are eternal spirits, and that we have lived many lives, and we need to reflect that maybe, and this is to kind of put ourselves to reflect and compare. Sometimes we tend to compare our situation with other people, and we need to think that maybe because we know that we are eternal spirits and that we have already lived so many past lives, we need to think that who says that you yourself were not also once impoverished and unfortunate like them, right? So maybe we think, we see, we compare, sorry, other people that maybe is struggling more in this life than we are, right? So we need to think that maybe in another life, in a past life, we were in that situation as well. And if we were not, we need to think that we will have future lives. And who knows that someday you will not beg from those who you despise today. So it's two things that I want you all to reflect today, is not only thinking that whatever you are living nowadays, it is a reflection of your past lives, but it will also impact your future lives as well. So if we think that, so this part is really important in the message, because he asks us to set up our eyes to the reality of things of this world. We need to set up our eyes to things that will lead us to greatness on one hand, which is humility, and things that will lead us to humiliation on the other hand, pride. So we need to remember that death will not spare you any more than anyone else. That titles will not save us from it. Death can strike us tomorrow, today, in 1 hour. And that's one thing that everybody, for sure, that is here is living, right? We know for sure that one day we will die, right? We will go back to the spiritual world. And depending on how we live our lives today and how we deal with situations that happens, and especially in terms of how is our relationship with people in our lives, especially the ones close to us. And if we are being proud, if we are thinking that we are above everyone else, like it says here, it's going to lead us to humiliation. It's going to lead us to a not very good place. While if we start to reflect and start to apply these teachings to our daily lives and really analyze that we are all in the same level, even the ones that are struggling today, like maybe they are struggling now, but you will be struggling soon, right? Like we don't know. That's one thing for sure. And Spiritism brings the idea of the past lives and the future lives, right? So we really need to think that our true life is in the spiritual world. And once we are there, and once death comes to us, we will be seeing everything that we lived in this life. And we can definitely be led to greatness if we act with humility, if we act with indulgency, or we will regret if we keep ourselves into this sentiment of pride. So all humans are equal on the divine scales, and only their virtues distinguish them from one another in God's eyes. Charity and humility are their titles of nobility. So this is an important thing for us to know, is that titles and names, they remain in the grave, right? They will not be something to be accountable once we go back to the spiritual world. We are all made the same. We are all in the same level. And the only thing that will differentiate us in God's eyes will be the titles of nobility that he mentioned here. It's charity and humility. Were you charitable towards your neighbor? Were you humble in all the situations that you went through? Those are probably the questions that we will be asked, and not like who we were, what you were doing, or what kind of car you had, what kind of house you had, right? And then Lacordaire gives us a message as well to those who endure human injustice. He asks us to be indulgent with the wrongs of your brothers and sisters by remembering that you yourselves are not exempt from reproach. To do so is charity, but is also humility. If you suffer slander, bow your head under the trial. And he adds up to courageously bear humiliation from others is to be humble and to recognize that only God is great and powerful. What a strong message, right? So we know that most of the things that we suffer in this life is probably from debts from our past lives. But it says here that human injustice, it can happen to us. But he asks us to remember to be indulgent, because we need to remember like that we are in the same level, right? So we can, like, if we were the person that did something bad to us, maybe if we were them with their background and with their level of evolution, we will also make that same mistake. Maybe now you already know that that was bad and you would not do that to other person. But if you were in those conditions, it's like he says there, we are not exempt from reproach, right? We can make mistakes as well. And that's why we need to be indulgent. We need to understand that We are in the same level. We can make mistakes, maybe not that mistake specifically, but any other mistake. And just by that, he encourages us to bear humiliation from others, to be humble, is to be humble and to recognize that God is the one that is great and powerful. Above us all, it's only God. And he finishes his message with a shout out to us. Wake up, my brothers and sisters, my friends. He says to us, be generous and charitable without ostentation. That is, do the good with humility. Let each of you tear down, little by little, the altars you have erected to pride. In a word, be true Christians, and you will possess the kingdom of truth. So this is the invitation that Lacordaire leaves to us in his message, to be true Christians, to actually put into practice all Jesus' teachings. So now we're going to start the message from Adolf, Bishop of Argyll, and he starts talking a little bit about pride. And he says that pride is the fount of all our ills. So he asks us to devote ourselves to destroying it if you don't want to perpetuate its devastating consequences. So we know, and like in the message of Lacordaire, he was already saying that pride is terrible, right? So pride here, it's saying that is the fount of all our ills, and it has devastating consequences. But how can we start to destroying pride? He says that there is only one way offered to you, and it's foolproof. Take as your invariable rule of conduct the law of Christ. So put into practice all Jesus' teachings of love, of kindness, of humility. Jesus led us all the right pathway, and even though it looks simple, but we know that the practical side, actually putting into practice, it's not that simple, because we are still evolving, right? We are still developing those virtues, but we need to start. We need to put into practice and put that as our objective, our goal in our life, if we want to destroy pride from and destroy any devastating consequence that it can lead us. So he continues saying and asking us, why have you let material needs encroach on good sense and reason? Why does anyone want to rise above his or her brothers and sisters? And it's kind of what we are seeing in society right now a little bit. And remember that this message is from the 1800s. So he says that society today is suffering the consequences of this fact. And we can definitely see that still nowadays. Do not forget that such a state of things is always a sign of moral decadence, right? So pride is a sign of moral decadence. And he asks us to open our eyes to the light. There are the souls of those who are no longer on the earth and who have come to call you to your real duties. So how important is that? It's like I said in the beginning, these spirits, they came to communicate to us They are no longer here on earth, but they came to communicate us. And he says that it's to call us to our real duty. With all the authority of their experience, they will tell you how the vanities and the grandeur of your temporary existence are a small thing in comparison with eternity. So that's why we need to remember always that we are eternal spirits, that our life here on earth, it's a really real, it's like temporary, like he was saying there, right? So sometimes we give so much importance of little things that we are living in this life, and we forget to look into the big picture, right? We forget why we are here. We are here incarnated to evolve and to develop all these virtues that we are learning from the gospel, especially humility and charity. So they will tell you, the spirits you will tell you that there in the eternity, the greatest is the one who was the humblest among the small of your world. That those who love their brothers and sisters the most are also those who will be loved the most in heaven. That the powerful of the earth, if they abuse their authority, will be reduced to obeying their servants. So he gives us kind of like a summary, right, of how are things considered in the spiritual world, right, by God, by the good spirits. They see us that who is the greatest? Maybe here in our world, in the material world, we would say that it's the one who has more money or the one who has more power. But over there, it's the humbles, the people who are who can be the humbles. This is the one that is the greatest, and also the ones who loved their brothers and sisters, who support and mutually helped their brothers and sisters. They are the ones that will be loved the most in the heavens, right? In short, and to end our talk today, I would like to leave us with this summary and this important message is that charity and humility are those two sisters who walk hand in hand and are the most effective means for obtaining grace before the Eternal One. So may we remember always about those two sisters, charity and humility. And may we, and I hope that this message today can clarify a little bit about those virtues and may inspire you to start putting into practice all these teachings in your daily lives. Thank you, everyone. And I will see if there is any questions for me today. You are mute.
Sorry. Thank you for your presentation and your reflections on this topic. It was a
Thank
great
you.
moment and lots of learnings. And yeah, we do have some couple of questions.
Okay.
Paul, the first one, Paul is asking, how does humility help us to be closer to Jesus' example? What?
Well, yeah, so humility, like I was saying, Jesus is the greatest example that we have for humility, right? So if we start to put into practice and really humble ourselves, it's like we are being a little bit more like him. So that's why putting into practice and really developing this virtue will make us be closer to Him. Remember what I was telling in the end, that the greatest, like in the spiritual world, right, is the ones that are the humbles. So as much as we can, we need to start practicing the humility and charity to be like Jesus,
Mhm.
or a little bit closer to Him, right? We still have a long path to be like Him,
True.
but definitely we can be a little closer if we are uh, practicing this, right?
Yeah, one of your slides remember me about it's a quote that we that actually is not a quote, is a Jesus thought that he said, don't let the right hand sees what the left hand does, right?
Hmm.
And
Yeah, it's from the gospel, right?
yeah, from the gospel.
Hmm.
And we have the Publius question. The good spirits will ask what position or what titles we like to be recognized when we were incarnated. Charity and humility. What do you think when we discarnated? What they are gonna ask?
Well, no, definitely not, right? They will not be asking of like what were you doing when you, like, what profession you were practicing, or like who were you in that sense. No. um they will be as like asking, or it's checking like our actions, right? And that's why it's important, like those sisters, charity and humility, those are the titles of nobility, like Lacordaire says, that will be checked in our life, right? So that's what they are going to ask from us. If we were charitable towards our neighbor, if we were humble in the situations that kind of put us into, like, to prove that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Thank you. And
Oh, you have a question as well.
a little one. And how can we be humble and indulgent in the face of the challenge in the life?
Hmm.
What do you think?
Yeah, it's really hard, right, when we have a challenge, or when we when we suffer for something in our life, and sometimes it's hard to really understand, oh, am I being proud, am I not taking that with humility, or kind of seeing the other side. I believe the best way in handling that would really put yourselves in the shoes of the other person, even though, and sometimes it's like that quote that we commonly say, do you want to be right, or do you want to be happy, right? So
Mhm,
sometimes you will have to forgive, even though you didn't, like, it wasn't your fault. So but it's hard, right, when things happen, and maybe you are angry, maybe you are feeling frustrated. It's really hard to sometimes to recognize this. And but if you are studying, and if you are learning about charity and humility, you will start to at least recognize, and looking back and say, oh, maybe I wasn't like the way I handling like that challenge, it wasn't the best.
mhm,
So when you start to kind of um, looking for those mistakes that maybe you did, you will start to have kind of like a backup for those situations happens again, right?
yeah.
So it's really we really need to analyze ourselves and put ourselves in the shoes of the other person as well,
Yeah.
because we always do the best that we can with the instruction that we have, right? And sometimes it's not always the best, but we are definitely trying always to be a better version, right?
Be empathetic, right?
That's correct. Yeah.
We'll always think about the other side, because sometimes we only think that we are right,
Mhm.
I think everything has three versions:
Mhm.
yours, mine's, and the
The actual, like what actually happened, right?
yes.
Yeah,
So
I agree.
yeah, true. But thank you so much, Larissa. You were great.
Oh, thank you
Yeah,
guys.
your talk was amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank
Okay.
you.
And thank you for your participation in the chat. We will now move to the preparation for tonight's spiritual treatment. Pass is the transfusion of spiritual energy with the goal of assisting with our physical, emotional, and mental balance. Passes help us to restore a state of harmony and peace by replacing negative energy with health and positive energy. In order to receive the best benefits from passes, please follow the audio instructions or remain in prayer. You may close your eyes to help with mentalization. During the pass, the water you set aside will absorb the spiritual energy that you, your family, and you can benefit from. And we will now make a prayer in preparation for the pass, which will be our closing prayer as well. So, once again, I invite everyone to join me and close our eyes. So, dear Lord, thank you for this blessed night and for everything we learn during this tonight's talk. May we can practice your example of humility every day of our lives in order to love our neighbors and to be a charitable person. We ask you and the good spirits to help us during this treatment and that we can finish it better than when we started. Please bless our week and our night and help us to have a blessed sleep. May your love spread all over all the world. And once again, thank you for everything you have done to us. Please be with us today and always. So be it.
Let us now prepare ourselves for the moment of the passes and the magnetization of water. Let's now calm our hearts, breathing in and out. Pay attention to your body. Focus on your breath and let yourself be carried by this energy. Let your thoughts pass by without judging them. Let them flow. Allow this light to be the beacon that guides you, and allow these words to penetrate your energy. Make each word an anchor of gratitude, faith, and trust. With the purpose of healing, which takes away my faith, healing every feeling of separation, of pain, let it all dissolve in this moment, leaving only love, gratitude, and trust. We ask God for the presence of our guardian angel and the friendly spirits who welcome us into this enlightened environment of our Spiritist Center. We open our plexus of love and forgiveness by mentalizing a light surrounding our hearts. Find a quiet and comfortable place to begin the mentalization process. Remove all worries from your thoughts. We ask that during the pass you breathe slowly and deeply. Let your body relax and surrender yourself to a deep meditation. Calmly imagine divine energies in soft and colorful light surrounding you in an environment of peace and spiritual warmth. Entrusting God with your most intimate desires, raise your thoughts to Jesus and the emissaries of the spiritual environment. The pass begins with the cleansing of your soul. Imagine a waterfall of crystal clear water pouring over us, removing all the feelings that keep you away from faith and trust. Feel the energy of this water bathing you and deeply breathe in, feeling peace and harmony. Allow this water to wash away all the impurities and spiritual larvae, washing away all the sorrows and resentments, any feelings of hatred and revenge that hold us back and cause us harm, not only from this life, but past ones as well. Now visualize spiritual doctors around you, applying magnetic cleansing passes, sanitizing your spiritual body of all sadness and negative energy. Mentalize these negative thoughts and feelings being washed away, evaporating from your soul, like water evaporating into thin air, and being carried far away from your mind. Surround yourself with the faith that bathes your being, bringing clarity and lucidity, rebalancing every cell in your body. May the water envelop all pain and bring the clarity of opportunity that chooses peace. The answer arises in our hearts, freeing us from all evil and freeing all whom we have caused evil into and who have caused us evil, washing away all the connections that bind us. Even though we may not understand, we are freeing ourselves from all that causes us harm. Feel this cleansing penetrate your soul and release. Now that we are spiritually cleansed, imagine yourself surrounded by the light of love from the hands of Jesus. At this moment, sing words of faith and gratitude, being faithful to the light that exists in me, planted by the zealous Father. Imagine the sunlight that surrounds and enraptures, freeing us from the chains of everything that holds us down, strengthening your faith. Allow yourself to trust in this light, surrender to it, involved in pleasant feelings and feeling relieved to receive the strengthening lights. Mentalize your spiritual mentors now applying divine light for the strengthening of your mind and your emotions, leaving you feeling emotionally revitalized. Let us now mentalize the magnetization of this water. May we mentalize all the friendly spirits, magnetizing this water and filling it with everything that our bodies, minds, and soul need, so that it may be of help to us when we drink it after the Pass. Thank you, God.
I would like to thank you for joining us tonight. We will be back next Tuesday here on Spiritism Canada and Continental Concaffres Americas at 8:30 p.m. East. And next Wednesday on Kardec Radio at 8 p.m. East. Have a good night.